River Road, you got me running way back home. River Road, you got me running all night long. You got me singing some canal boat song. River Road, you got me running all night long.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Niner Nuts. Dan here along with James and Eric. Gentlemen, say hello. How are we doing?
Hello, Niner Nation. Sorry.
What's up, everybody, on Terrible, Terrible Monday?
Yeah, no, this is not Victory Monday. Usually when there's big news, I joke like, oh, well, we got the Deadpool trailer. That's what we're going to spend the next hour talking about. But no, this is a rather somber, not Victory Monday, as we fell once again to the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. This time, it went into overtime. Final score 25-22. Nerdy number stuff. Purdy had a 89 passer rating, 255 yards, only one sack, surprisingly, and one touchdown. McCaffrey, he went over 100 total yards, best receiver and runner of the game. He had a receiving touchdown and 80 yards and 80 yards rushing, so 160 total. And then everyone else fairly held in check. No one cracked the 50 mark, rushing or receiving.
You had Juwan Jennings joining Nick Foles as the only player to receive a touchdown pass and to throw a touchdown pass in the same Super Bowl.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting bar trivia question at some point in my life.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is, like, we know we all watched it. So we we both watched those Super Bowls, so we know exactly who they are.
Yeah.
We will give him his proper flowers here in a second. The rest of the numbers, Patrick Mahomes 333 yards. He did have a pick, but 2 touchdowns, and we did sack him 3 times. So it's not like we didn't get to him, but obviously it's Patrick Mahomes. He ended his night with a 99 passer rating. Pacheco, we held under 60 rushing yards, even though he didn't cross 100 total yards. 33 plus 59 is under 100. And we kept him out of the end zone. But Travis Kelce, 93 yards. Hardman and MVS both scored a touchdown, even though they didn't touch the ball too often. They both had 3 catches each. And that's all I got for the number side of it. So I guess now the raw emotion of it. I am glad we didn't tape yesterday. I'm glad I had the night or we all agreed to take the night to just process it and think about it.
It would have been a good show if we would have went on last night.
Man, I went through my fiance could tell you, I didn't break my TV or I didn't go full Dallas Cowboy loss, but no, of course I screamed the F word into my pillow and just had to sit there in silence for a little bit, and then got emotional when I called my mom because my dad's not here anymore, and then called you, James, and then I mean, I kind of embraced it. I mean, it was interesting texting you, Eric, about how you were processing it, and I just kind of, I don't know, I've tried to just not take it in stride, but I found this one a little easier to take. I'm really trying to find the silver linings in this loss. Really, the fact that we got to go into overtime, I think that negates a lot of the issues that, not negates, but I think that countered a lot of the stumbling that we did. Missing points, the missing extra points, the only one that still really bothers me. But otherwise, I mean, we can break down all those mistakes. We got plenty of talking points to talk about, but just, I still am really proud of this team. Good God, I honest to God don't remember a better game from our defense. And that's really what this game came to. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, and then us as a unit were a top flight offense. But if you want to sum up what this game really came down to, it was whose defense was going to crack first. And both of our defenses just showed up. Kansas City dared us to pass the ball because they loaded the box, and we pressured the crap out of Patrick Mahomes, and we played pretty good coverage overall, all things considered, I think. Obviously, we gave up stuff, but so did Kansas City. But we knocked down Patrick Mahomes as much as they stymied us. Like, it really was it was a title fight fitting Vegas, and it went into overtime. But no, it obviously doesn't make it hurt less. Like, no, I'm very mad that we lost 3 Super Bowls in a row now. I keep thinking that we're turning into the Buffalo Bills of the NFC. Like, we just can't beat Patrick. We can't cross the finish line. Like, and it sucks right now. And I just made myself listen to all the, is it Kyle's fault? Is it Purdy's fault? Not a lot of people were digging on Purdy, and I defy anybody to say this was all Purdy's fault. Purdy had a great game, in my opinion. Not a top tier game, obviously, but I still thought Purdy stepped up to the plate more times than he didn't. He looked like he was ready for the moment, and I mean, I'm just kind of rambling, but it sucks. It sucks, and I'm still gonna need maybe another week or two to really handle it, or to really fully process it. But I'm, just trying to, I don't know. I told you, James, that now we have to do this podcast forever because we've both lost to Patrick Mahomes back-to-back years. So, but yeah, no, it sucks. It sucks, but I don't know. I'm trying to keep it in perspective. We have so many core pieces that are still coming back. Yeah, free agency's probably going to suck, and we can dig more into that as we get into the offseason, because free agency probably is going to suck. We're going to lose a lot of people, but I don't know. It's what it is. I mean, we can't really change anything. It just, I don't know. I'm trying to just embrace the wallow to try and theoretically get through it faster, I guess. I don't know. Eric or James, how are you guys? Have you guys been handling it?
Well, I'll let Eric go because I'm not a Niners fan. So,
I mean, I've been sad and down all day since it happened. I mean, last night. I mean, it was just unfortunate to see. It was unfortunate to watch. It was unfortunate to behold. But it was inevitable. I mean, as soon as they kicked that field goal in overtime, you knew what was going to happen. You knew that Mahomes was going to get the ball, and you knew he was going to come down the field. And if nothing else, they were at least going to get another field goal and send it back the other way. You just knew there was no way that we were going to knock him out that easily. And we talked about it, in the chat a bunch of times during the game, that the Niners just needed to score a touchdown. All right, if they can just get a touchdown here. All right, now this opportunity, they got to get a touchdown here. And they could never get that touchdown. They could never get that touchdown that they needed to knock Kansas City out. And that was really what it came down to, was they let the Chiefs and Poopy Mahomes, that's my name for him now, Poopy Mahomes, well, because I wanted to call him something a lot worse last night, but my daughter was here watching the game, so now he's just Poopy Mahomes. Yeah, I mean, we let him hang around, and if you stay within reach for him and that stupid team, they're going to come get you. I mean, that's just the way that it works. I mean, they showed the graphic at halftime that said he was 8-2 in games with a 7+ point differential or whatever. And sure enough, here he came and marched back and brought him back. So, I mean, we just didn't finish enough times. We had plenty of opportunities. I thought that, I don't know. I mean, I thought that we played well. We moved the ball up and down the field adequately enough. We had opportunities and chances to score, and we just didn't put it in the end zone. We had to settle for field goals too often, and it came back to bite us. I don't think that was a deficiency on anyone. It was just kind of the way the game went. I mean, every time that a big third down came up, here came Chris Jones blasting up the middle as soon as Purdy got the ball, and he wouldn't have a chance to do anything with it. I mean, he probably did that close to a half dozen times. And I think
it was 6 pressures that he registered.
Yeah. And they just beat him. And, if I look at it objectively, Kansas City had three pieces that were better than ours in this game. They had the better quarterback, they had the better head coach, and they had the better defensive coach. And that ultimately came down to being the factors that won this game, because they made some adjustments at the half. Obviously, the Niners made some adjustments at the half too. But when Purdy came out in the third quarter and for portions of the fourth quarter, he didn't look comfortable back in the pocket. In the first half, he was dropping back, and as soon as that back foot would hit, boom, ball would come out. And then in the second half, he was dropping back, and he was having to stop, and he was having to look, and he was having to try to find his read, and he was forcing the ball into guys that were pretty well covered. I mean, there were a number of times he threw a ball to Debo or Ayuk, or even, I don't even know if it was to Kittle, but I know he threw a couple to Debo and Ayuk that I was just like, woo, like, whoa, I don't know why you're throwing that ball in there. I mean, the guy's got him blanketed. But, he just he wasn't seeing what he thought he was supposed to be seeing back there. So Spagnuolo made great adjustments. He brought pressure at all the right times. He just outplayed Kyle, really. I mean, that's all that it came down to. And then, on the other end of things, Andy Reid, great job offensively. He called a fantastic game plan in the fourth quarter and in overtime and got them down the field. And when you have Poopy Mahomes that can execute the game plan the way that he does, you're going to win a lot of games. And that's really, to me, what it just came down to. I think that both teams were really evenly matched. I think, really, if you still look at it on paper, the 49ers are the better team overall if you just look at the roster. But in those three areas, and that's not a slight on Purdy. Dan, like you said, I mean, I think that Purdy played a good game. He wasn't great, but he was good. He didn't look like he was scared of the moment. He didn't fold under pressure. He didn't look like he was scared of the lights or anything like that. He played like he had played all season long against tougher defenses. So
he was a quarterback. He was a quarterback that, to me, was aware that this defense was going to be just as tough as Baltimore, because clearly Baltimore, I mean, those tip balls just kind of were fluky, but against it, to me, he looked like he knew he was going against a tough secondary. And like you were saying, in the third quarter, those adjustments work. Nobody was open. He looked panicked because he couldn't get to anybody. They had a fantastic plan in the secondary. Yeah. So, I mean, I've stayed off of all sorts of social media and stuff today because I just can't handle people slurping the Chiefs today. I just don't want any part of it. But I hope that nobody is hating on Purdy today, because he didn't lose that game for them in any way, shape, or form. He played fine. He played good. There was nothing wrong with his performance. But Mahomes was just better. I mean, he did the things down the stretch that mattered and made the difference. And the play calling on both sides for the Chiefs was just better. And that's what happened. So I was glad that the 49ers didn't beat themselves. We had seen them in the first round against the Packers, in the first round and the next round against the Lions, where they sucked in the first half and really were just beating themselves and had to dig out of those holes. So it was really nice to not see them beat themselves in this particular Super Bowl, but they just got beat by the better team that night. And that's just kind of the way that I've been trying to sort of process it along. Trent almost beat us. He that one driver, he got called 2 plays in a row.
Yeah.
That was scary. But no, I couldn't agree more with you. It's just the who could execute in the right moment. And I mean, I didn't think our plan was that bad. But no, obviously at the end of the day, Kansas City coaches, if you had to pick one, they called the right plays because they got it done. I do want to push that. I thought Steve and Kyle were up for the challenge, and I admire that we had the guts to take it in overtime, and we got to the 5, and Chris Jones was the only reason that play didn't work. That was the right play call. Juwan got open. Just Chris broke the line faster than he got open. That's my last rebuttal on that part. James, what did you think objectively? Like, because you were the most emotionally disattached of the three of us.
I think
was this objectively a great Super Bowl to watch?
I mean, yeah, it was. I think so. I think really with the way the game was going and the overtime rules, in the playoffs are different than the regular season. Wondering why Kyle, winning the coin toss, would elect to receive instead of kicking the ball away, knowing that no matter what, you're going to get a possession, whether he scores a touchdown or whether he scores a field goal. Basically putting, the game in Purdy's hands instead of having to put the game in the defense's hands. You've seen what Brock could do, in these last two playoff games with coming back and leading these drives. I think Shanahan should have elected to kick. If Mahomes goes down and scores a touchdown, great. He goes and scores a touchdown. You still have a chance to go down there and at least tie the game, and keep it going. Or I just think that was really the mistake that really cost everything. Because the whole game changes if you decide to elect a kick, then to receive, and then hoping that your defense is going to stop Mr. Magical Mahomes from going down there and scoring a touchdown. That way, I mean, if you're going to go to overtime in the playoffs against Patty Mahomes and you win the coin toss, you don't want the game ending with the ball in his hands. You want the game ending with the ball in your hands, and that's sort of we talked about, how coaches need to coach against that. How, I've talked about in that big division round game with the Chiefs and the Bills the first time, you saw with the way that game was going, it was the last person who held the ball was going to win. Right. And the best thing in that situation, the game that changed the whole overtime rules, was for Sean McDermott to onside kick. You don't give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes. Just don't give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes. That's how you're going to win the game, And so, yeah, it's that, the 49ers had everything there to win this game. And I think basically that decision, plus you guys had bad luck. You had a lot of bad luck going on. Greenlaw went down because he just ran onto the field. Come on. And then, Kittle came out because he had something in his shoulder. Debo goes down with a hamstring. Freaking, the ball hits your guy being blocked into it on special teams. Ronnie Bell's or Ray McLeod's just going there don't touch it, don't go near it. And the guy's not even looking and it hits him in the foot, and the Chiefs recover at the 10-yard line. And then it makes it an easy score for Patrick Mahomes. So, you had everything, and a couple of things didn't go your way. The coach makes a bad decision to elect to receive in overtime. And that's just really what the difference I see in the game was just those things. It just seemed like, you guys kept having this string of bad luck, oh my gosh, Greenlaw goes down. Oh my gosh, Debo goes down. George Kittle's thing. Oh, it hit his foot. And now it's the Chiefs get it and score an easy touchdown. It was there. It was you guys. And even with all of that, even with all that bad luck, you guys were still in the game. You guys still could have won the game. It wasn't like the Chiefs just overtook you and tried to, just ran away with it after those mistakes and after those injuries and things like that. But it was all there. It was all there. You had the team, you had the roster, you had the coaches, you had everything you needed to win that game. And, a couple things didn't go your way. And, Shanahan makes a bad decision. And the Chiefs win. And that's exactly what happened to the Eagles last year. A fluke play. Jalen Hurts was the best player on the field last year. And because of one fluke play where he just fumbled the ball out of nowhere, and they picked it up, scoop and score. Really, that was a big difference in the game. And it's just, if that's gonna happen, like, you need to outsmart the other coach on the other side. You need to outsmart the other team, because once you get a bad play, you got to make up for it, and you just got to outsmart the other guy. And same thing in the last 2 years. Andy Reid was the better coach on the sideline. Like you said, Eric, they had the better coach, they had the better coordinator on defense, and they had the better quarterback. But like, I think yeah, everything was there to be had, and Andy Reid just outcoached you guys. And I don't think it was necessarily all about Mahomes. I think it was Andy Reid's job, and calling the right plays, and getting people open in the second half, and just taking advantage of the situations. And yeah, you had a couple of things not go your way. Coach makes a bad decision. That's it. Yeah, you're not. It's hard to win when that happens.
Well, Andy and Patrick are they're the coach player combo. If any, just play at a 99. They whatever they start the game with, like, even if it's terrible and they're like in the 30s, they go all pro, all Madden, whatever, 99. We've seen it happen countless times. And like what you were saying, Eric, like, we gave them an inch and they took a mile. Like, that happened. Like, even though we forced overtime, and I'm taking solace in, like, well, at least we forced them to go into overtime. We almost overcame all this bad luck and mistakes. But yeah, in the end, we left them an inch when we didn't score on that first touchdown. Which, I mean, what's your thoughts on the overtime? I was okay with it. James made a good case for we should have deferred it. What did you think of it?
I guess I can see both sides of it. I like the concept of having the control of, like, I went down and I did my thing, and I know exactly where I stand. And the defense had been playing very well throughout the game. So the idea of turning it over to my defense and making Mahomes go theoretically 75 yards, to win the game against the defense, which he did, should have been difficult and should have aligned up. But I mean, I see James's point too, that you obviously don't want to put the ball in Mahomes' hands at the end of the game, and you want to have that control on your end. And I think Romo pointed it out a number of times on the broadcast that when you're second to possess the ball, you have all four downs. You're going for it on fourth down every single time. So it changes your play calling and what you're doing a little bit, because you know that you're going to go for it every single time. So I guess I could see it. I guess I understand why Kyle did it. I guess I don't know. I don't know that it changed the complexity of the game that much. I think at that point in time, the Chiefs defense was playing at a really high level throughout that fourth quarter. I don't know that I would have felt very confident about us marching all the way down the field and having to match a Chiefs touchdown to keep the game alive at that point in time. So I don't know, but
that's a fair point. Asking the offense to do it twice. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I mean, yeah, but the thing about it is, like, okay, like, you score the touchdown, you could go for two. You're 2 yards away from winning the game. If you tie it, then you put it back in Mahomes' hands. So, like, that, I mean, that's the whole college football system. If you watch college football, they end up going for two anyway, after like two possessions. Like, you have to go for two.
Yeah.
The game just doesn't keep revolving. And so, in that instance, if you're going to win the game, you got to score a touchdown and then 2 yards for a 2-point conversion. I mean, Kyle has plenty of plays for 2 yards, I think.
Yeah.
And it's just, I just don't think you want to leave the game on the line and leave it with Patrick Mahomes having the ball in his hands and leave the game on the line like that.
Yeah.
Like you want to control the ball to win the game. And I guess I can see why he would do that, but still though, I
see your point. I mean, and you're much more a believer in the aggressive style of coaching and playing than I think Dan and I both are a little bit. So, I mean, I get where you're coming from there. So I think the other thing that you really hit on, James, is that, we had some bad bounces and we had some mistakes, and you can't have that against the Chiefs. It's just like when teams used to play the Patriots, right? You had to play the perfect game. You had to do everything right to be able to beat the Patriots, or you were going to lose, because by golly, here was going to come Tom Brady marching down the field and he was going to beat your team, right? It didn't matter what you had done earlier in the game. Here he was going to come down and beat you. You had to play a perfect game. And the 49ers made some mistakes. They had some bad bounces, that stupid muffed punt that turned right into a quick 7 for the Chiefs. I mean, that was just a terrible set of circumstances. But on the same token, the 49ers got 2 turnovers off of the Chiefs, both of them, one of them deep in Niners territory, but the other one on the Chiefs side of the field, and they did absolutely zilch with either of them. They didn't turn either of them into points or anything, and in fact, barely moved the ball on either of those possessions. And that's just something that you can't do. When you steal a possession from a team like the Chiefs, you've got to turn it into, if nothing else, you've got to turn it into better field position. But the one where Brown intercepted it and they had really good starting field position, I mean, they were like in field goal range and they came away with no points. You just can't do that. You have to get something out of that situation. And they completely botched that series and left everything on the table with that. And that really hurt them. So, I mean, we could talk about the missed extra point too. I mean, when you do the math and shuffle things around, I mean, we're sitting here saying like, well, missed extra point, big deal. But like, I mean, it made a difference in the game. I mean, the Chiefs would have had to go for a touchdown instead of a field goal at one point in time. So I mean,
that's what I mean. That was the most critical mistake, I think. Or if you lump bad luck and mistakes together, that was the most consequential one to me. Not any of the fumbles, not the punt, not us electing to receive it in overtime. The fact that it was 3 points and we left it up to them they could have still won with a touchdown, but hey, we got a safety net of a field goal with a guy that just took our record away from our kicker that didn't even get to hold on to it for 2 quarters. Like, I don't know. I could see a pessimistic person saying that, well, they kicked a even longer field goal and you had a muff punt. Like, you guys are just going to lose. It's a matter of when. But no, I think that was the biggest nail in our coffin was when Moody missed that kick. Like, was he gonna miss? Do you guys think he was gonna miss it anyway with the way that he did kick it? It just got blocked.
I mean, I think seeing the replay, like, it didn't look like, I don't think it looked like he got his foot properly on there and he kicked it off his own ankle. They were saying,
that's what I mean. It looked like he was gonna miss it anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, they were saying was basically missed upon lack of focus. Like he didn't, it was a high snap and lack of focus. Like, he ended up kicking it into the hands of the people. He ended up going low and it, kicking it high, kicking it too low where they could block it, So I mean, I looked at that as possibly a mental error by Moody, by the way he, by the way that looks like how he kicked that ball. So it wouldn't have gone in, I don't think it would have gone in even if it passed his hands, but still, that was like, it looked, the way they were showing it on the replay was that it was a mental error. Like, he lost focus and because of a high snap or something, and then ended up kicking it off his ankle instead of the way he should have.
Yeah, I don't want to sit here and like poop on Moody at this point in time, but do we have to? We're gonna at some point in time in the offseason have to have the talk. Like, is he the kicker? I mean, like he's gonna be the kicker, but is he the kicker? Like,
we just gotta sit him down and tell him like, yo, yeah, we've seen you kick a 55, we've seen you kick a 49. You gotta not have a miss in between them though, because that's the only problem I see with him is that he can make all the extra points and he's got the leg to make all the field goals. But yeah, for every 50-yarder he made, he missed one. Then he made a 42-yarder, and then he missed one. And we got to get the consistency cut down. The talent's there. It's not as bad as Robbie Aguayo, thank God. He's definitely not that bad, but no, he had a lot of mental errors in every single game in the playoffs. I'm not saying this one costed. I am not going to be that mean to him, but it wasn't the biggest error that we made in the game.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that you, again, harkening back to what I'm pointing the wrong way, harkening back to what James said earlier, you cannot make mistakes. You can't have issues and blunders in a game like this against an opponent like this. And unfortunately, that's a miss, because otherwise now it's 17-13, and instead of them driving down the field and kicking a Butker 57-yard field goal or whatever it was that he kicked, now they've got to try to drive for a touchdown. And I mean, our defense was playing well. It played great in the first half. It was playing well in the second half. But if you just get more, having to drive for that touchdown takes more time off the clock, takes more possessions. Guys are getting hit a couple more times. You just can change the complexion of the game because there's just more opportunities for things to happen. And because they didn't have to do that, here we ended up with where we are. And I don't know. I'm kind of just at a loss for words because it's just so disheartening to just have gone this far along this season and have everything kind of right there lined up for us this season. And just this team has been so great to follow all season long, and with everybody that they've got on this team, and to just not be able to close it out and to lose it to the stupid Chiefs again is just annoying on so many levels. And now I just want the entire state of Missouri to blow up and all these things. And so, I mean, I shouldn't say that. I mean, I don't have anything against the people of Missouri, I guess, but if like the Chiefs facility could implode, that would be okay.
With nobody in it, of course. Nobody in it.
I'll defend St. Louis.
Sure.
I think St. Louis is a cool city, but no, I can agree in sentiment with Kansas City. I'm cool with St. Louis though. Just anything west of St. Louis. How about we give some flowers though? Like honestly, because I really do think. I mean, we have praised. I'll say we've praised Purdy, and I think Purdy really did make them. We obviously didn't finish the deal, but he was far from the problem. Purdy, yeah. I'll just reiterate, he looked like he was ready for this moment. Juwan, James, you already said it at the top, but that was a scary throw to Christian, but I mean he got it and he got a touchdown off it, but
he got destroyed when he threw that ball. He held onto that thing for the last second and was like, whoa.
And then but his touchdown, he's just made of stone, man. He just carried those guys into the end zone with him. I thought he had a great game. Christian obviously had a great game. I want to shout out Chase Young specifically. The whole defensive line did great. Like Nick Bosa was making great moves. Randy Gregory was making moves. Armstead was looking the healthiest he's been since his initial week off with the plantar fasciitis. But man, you could just see on Chase Young's face that he was just leaving it all out there on the field. And my heart breaks for him because we're probably not going to re-sign him. Let's be real. But man, I can't. You can't tell me that he wasn't giving it his all on the field during the Super Bowl. It was the best game that I'd seen him play in a 49ers uniform. He tried his damnedest, and we just came up short. So I mean, my heart breaks for him because here's your flower, Chase. I thought you had a great last game with us, and it sucks we're probably not going to re-sign you.
Yeah, I think so, I mean, I'll give a shout out to the same guy I've been praising for the last few weeks. I'll shout out Mooney Ward. we didn't hear his name called all night long, and that's because he shut down whatever side of the field he was on again. I don't think Mahomes threw his way hardly at all. I mean, maybe a couple of times I saw a flash of the number 7 jersey, but that was it. I mean, most of the time you didn't hear his name or number mentioned on the broadcast at all. So he's really turned it on over the last half of the season, and especially throughout the playoffs and in this Super Bowl, and just really owned whatever receiver that they've been putting over on that side of the field, because they just haven't been throwing at him at all. So I'll give him some praise. I really like the kid, the safety that we got that's playing in place of Hufanga. I think Brown is really talented. He's got some things to learn. He's got some stuff to clean up. I mean, but he's a rookie, and he's only played, I don't know, like 6-7 games or something like that, because he's been in and out of the lineup a couple of times. But he got
benched for Logan for a little bit.
Yeah, but he seems like he's got a nose for the ball. He comes up, he makes tackles. He seems like he makes plays out there in the secondary. So, really glad to see him doing that, because we're going to have to make some adjustments at the safety position probably this offseason, and he was probably going to move into one of those starting positions. So I think that's a promising sign. And then, obviously, CMC was great, as he always is. There were a couple of times that I was just yelling in my living room to just hand him the ball, just hand off to Christian, because I just thought that if we just handed it off to him enough times, we'd eventually activate cheat code mode, and he would just break one and just run and, take off and score. And, unfortunately he wasn't able to really pull that out. But he was still great in the game, as evidenced by, 80 yards rushing, 80 yards receiving, and all that stuff. He's a phenomenal talent. And, I think that he showed up in the biggest game of the season, just like we would want him to. So I'm a little disappointed in Ayuk and Debo. They kind of didn't really do a whole lot. Kittle was absolutely non-existent for whatever reason. I didn't pay enough attention to see if they were keeping him in to block all the time or whatever, but they didn't show any of his patented pancakes on linebackers or linemen or anything like that they typically do when he stays in and blocks. So I just don't think he was getting open for whatever reason. I think Spagnuolo just had a really good defensive scheme going on the back half of things, and it really covered those guys up and made it hard for them to get open and available. That's credit to them. And like I said earlier, their coaching staff above, ours, for having a little bit better game plan of what to do there. So what do you think, James?
I mean, I'm just interested to see, okay, what's this mean for, the next season? Because, are you going to be able to get back there again? Because it's not easy to get there once and then to get there the next year. We just saw it with the Eagles. Like, part of the reason why the Eagles started to falter at the end of the year was just that they're so mentally exhausted. They went a whole season, going to play the last game of the season, and then to come back the next season and have all this pressure on them to make it back and winning the games that they were. And the next thing you know, like, they just fall apart. And part of it was probably because of mental exhaustion of having to go through a whole season to get to the Super Bowl and then losing it. How exhausted are you at the end of that? And then you got to come back the next year and try to get back that same magic that you had last year. And it's really, really tough. The last NFC team to go back to a Super Bowl after losing it the year before is the Minnesota Vikings way back in the 70s. So like,
that doesn't bode well.
it doesn't bode well. And, even for part of the...
Oh, sorry. I was saying, don't quarterbacks that lost their first Super Bowl appearance not go back either? Isn't that what the stats say too?
No, I don't think. Well, I know John Elway won after losing a couple in his first appearance. Trying to think. I mean, maybe he's the only one. Can't think.
I totally agree with your point, though, James. I think, I had a lot of people at work today come by and say, oh, sorry, your team lost. There's always next year and stuff like that. And I mean, there is something to that. There is always next year, but you can't it's so hard. It's so hard to get back to the it's hard to get to the Super Bowl in the first place. It's so hard to get back to the Super Bowl because you have to have so many things go right for you over the course of the season. I mean, like, let's be realistic. The Niners were very fortunate this year in terms of injuries. They barely had any real injuries. We lost Trent and Debo for about 3 games in the middle of the season. Outside of that, we had some players here and there go out, but no one was gone for extended periods of time. What happens if next year is like 2020, where the injury bug just like grabs everybody on the team and completely devastates the roster? Then we're done. I mean, we're already going to be down Greenlaw to start the beginning of the season. Well, I mean, Aaron Rodgers said you can come back from an Achilles tendon injury in like 2.5 weeks. So maybe Greenlaw will be back ready to go in no time. But,
well,
so many
it's
things.
February.
Have to go right.
He might be back. He might be back in October. Honestly, like,
I know
might.
Tony Gonzalez tore his Achilles on the last game of the season when he was with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was there. He was back opening day.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be great. But I mean, it's just the whole point of so many things have to go right for your team to make a Super Bowl run as it is.
Yeah.
And just, like you were saying, James, the mental exhaustion of like, you put everything that you had into this season, all the blood, sweat, the tears, just the mental focus. And then you got all the way to the mountaintop and you got to the very tippy top of the peak. And then somebody at the top was just like, nope, boop, back down you go.
Yeah.
That's just very self-defeating. And I don't know how you mentally wire yourself back up for another run like that, to just say, all right, we're going to run it back up again. Here we go again. We're going to try to get back to the tip of that mountain again. And I think that's just very hard to do. Plus, I think some of the teams in the NFC are going to be tough again next year. I think the Rams are going to be better next season, which is going to be a challenge for us being in the same division. A couple other teams are going to improve too. So, I mean, I don't think we can sit here right now and just be like, oh, well, you know what, we're going to bring back, 90% of the roster. So no big deal. We'll be right back in the Super Bowl. I think that's just fool's gold.
No,
no, we're not.
I mean, if history has anything to say about it, you guys won't be back next year.
No, if history has anything to say about it, we'll be about 8 and 9 next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to remember too, though, like, no, the odds are very much against us. I'm not saying that, but we have the right coaches and the right front office that at least are going to do everything in their power to give us a shot at it. Like, we're the team that have been to 3 NFC championships in a row and 4 of the last 5. Like, that's our bar. Anybody that comes into our building knows that's our bar. And Kyle runs a hell of a tight ship, and John Lynch.
Not John Elway. He's a terrible executive.
Yes, the opposite. The good John. The opposite.
Yeah.
John Lynch is incredible. He's an incredible GM. This is a very daunting task that we're going into. I actually have Sports Track up here. I'm not gonna. I mean, I can share my screen if you wanted to look, but if you just go to sportstrack.com. It's a phenomenal breakdown about our salary cap situation and who's a free agent and who's in a contract year, because a lot of people don't separate that. Like, a lot of free agent lists, yeah, there's free agents, but Brandon's clearly the number one priority, a contract year guy. But yeah, we have a very daunting financial situation this year. It's not as bad as the Saints a couple years ago, and it's not as bad as the Rams were last year or this year, but it's still bad. It's not an ideal situation. We're probably going to lose a lot of free agents. Like, I was looking at the list. I don't know. I hope we can keep a couple of them, but no shot in hell we're even keeping half of them.
Well, I haven't looked at the whole free agent list, so I don't know everybody that's eligible yet. And we can do a whole nother show on that. That'll be a fun topic to do. But I mean,
it's our whole defensive line.
Oh, well, I mean, but you make a good point though, Dan, is that like, we're the standard in the NFC at this point in time, just in terms of where we've been the last few years and the record and things like that. James, maybe the Eagles too, but for the most part, it's one of our 2 franchises, right? So I mean, they shouldn't have a problem attracting talent. That shouldn't be the problem. The problem is just going to be finding and getting creative with the money so that they still can pay the people that they need to be able to pay and get the people in. But getting people to come play for the 49ers, I mean, that shouldn't be a problem in any way, shape, or form. They should have their pick of whoever it is they want. And in terms of our own free agents coming back, I mean, unless you really just want to chase a big pile of money, which some guys will, why would you go anywhere else? I mean, by all accounts, the culture that the Niners have built is fantastic. The organization seems to be run in a fantastic manner. The owner is willing to spend and do things and support the organization. The facilities are top notch, and there's a ton of success to be had there. So, I mean, like, if you're looking at a couple million here or there, you know, if you're looking at a couple million difference between a contract with the Niners and a couple million difference with a contract with like the Raiders, well, like, why am I going to go do that? Like, I'm not going to go do that. I mean, I know some people chase the dollars, but I'm going to stick and I'm going to play with the Niners than go schlub with the Raiders. I don't want to go do that. So I think our free agency will be not as bad. Like I said, I haven't seen the list yet. And I think these guys are, I mean, they did it last year. They wanted to run it back. They felt bad, and they felt like they got gypped with the whole Purdy thing, getting hurt in the NFC Championship game, and they wanted to run it back. I think you're going to have some of that in this same situation here again. I think you're going to have a lot of these guys. They're going to be like, you know what? I'll take a 1-year deal and we'll run it back and we'll see what happens.
Well, and another thing you'll have going for you is like you're not going to lose your coordinators too. Like the Eagles lost both coordinators, you know, this past year.
And that really lost Clint Kubiak.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not. I mean, Kyle's your offensive coordinator. You're not losing Steve Wilkes, you know, so that is a positive, and that continuity that you'll have with the offense and the defense is there. Like one of the things that happened with the Eagles is we lost both our coordinators to head coaching positions, and then we had to replace them, and that really didn't go so well. You know, just promoting within, and so you know, you at least have both coordinators coming back. So that is an advantage that you'll have this year going into the season that the Eagles did not coming off the Super Bowl last year. So you have that going for you. But running everybody back is also not the answer. Like, you know, you have to improve. You have to get better. And you know, you're going to be losing some people. You're going to have to hit on those draft picks. You're going to have to, I mean, with cap hell that you're almost in, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I mean, it's
very
just
close to it.
Yeah, we got one more year. That's why I'm saying that I think we're going to be able to like mostly run it back because we got one more year, and then it becomes a big problem.
Yeah, it's obviously Brandon. Like we thought, we thought Nick was a contract saga. I really don't want Brandon to be a contract saga going up into training camp or going to the regular season. Sorry, literally right until the week before the season starts. I really don't want that to happen again.
Reason why John's a bad GM because he has holdouts.
Yeah,
no, it's because Nick Bosa has a hard nose for an agent. That's what it boiled down to.
Yeah.
I mean they're going to get a deal done for Ayuk. I don't think they can not pay him. I mean, I don't see any way that they can do that. But you know, Ayuk's got to start doing a better job if he wants to truly be a number one receiver in the NFL, which I think he has all the tools to do. He's got to do a better job of getting open and winning these matchups. He's been virtually non-existent for the playoffs, to be honest. I think he had like 3 catches in this Super Bowl for a guy who's supposed to be our number one receiver, and he just is disappearing. Now, I know they're doubling him a lot, but you know what? Guys like A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, you know, they all get doubled and they still get open and they still make plays. So he's got to take it to that next level and figure out, you know, when I'm getting double covered, what do I do differently? How do I shake this double team? How do I get open still? Some of that might be Purdy's fault too. Maybe Purdy doesn't want to throw to him when he's got that double coverage on him or whatever. I'm not sure. So it might not be all be Brandon's fault. I don't want to shit on him too hard, but but he's
Well,
got
if
to
anybody's been
he's got to elevate it if he wants to truly be like, I view him as sort of like a 1B right now. You know what I mean? Like, he's not as good as some of those 1A receivers. He's not a Devontae Adams. You know, he's not a Tyreek Hill. He's not an AJ Brown. He's not in that top tier right now because he's not absolutely dominant on a week to week basis. And we need him to get to that level. I think he can.
If anybody can, it's going to be him. Like you've seen all 4 years that we've had him. He was in the doghouse, and then he was a very solid number 2. Last year, he really, really showed signs of being a number 1. This year, he was objectively our number 1.
You said solid number 2.
Thank you.
Oh, everyone appreciates a solid number 2.
If anybody's not noticed, when we do ads, I'm not above making inappropriate humor. I'll just let that sit there for a minute. Maybe the picture's a little too big, but pay very close attention. I deliberately put that inappropriate joke in there every single week.
So yeah, I mean, I think we have a lot going for us, and I think, and you know, there's always the possibility of coming back. There's always the possibility of getting back to Super Bowl, but it's not something that you can take for granted, and it's going to be a really hard task. And I don't know that they're going to be up to the challenge. It's a grueling, grinding way to make their way back, and it's a feat that, like James said, hasn't been accomplished since the Vikings did it way back in the whenevers. And yeah, and I mean, you know, that just doesn't bode well for us. I mean, could we probably make it to the NFC Championship game again? Probably. Are we going to potentially lose in the NFC Championship game again? Could. I mean,
I just like the. It's Kyle's MO. I mean, if we, I don't like reading into narratives like. I mean, well, no, I do, but that's Kyle's MO, and he gets to live with that as his reputation. Amazing regular season, and then find a way to trip on your own ding dong in the playoffs. Like it's what it is.
I don't think that Kyle coached a bad game. I want to say that. I think that's important to say. So I don't think that Kyle coached a bad game. I really don't. Yeah. And I don't think that Steve Wilkes coached a bad game either. I really don't. I just think that the guys on the other side were better. I think had we played maybe the Ravens, or had we played the Bills or whomever else, I think it would have been a different story, because I don't know that those coaches were better than our coaches. But I think in this particular instance, it really just came down to the coaching. I think their coaches were just better. Spags created combinations on that back end that Purdy hadn't seen and he was confused by. He created pressures up front that got Chris Jones popping through at just the right time when they needed to do. He created some zero blitzes that got guys home fast when he needed to do it. He just had an outstanding game plan, and he seemed like he had the right call and the right answer for everything whenever it needed to happen. And on the offensive side of the ball, Andy Reid is just a master of doing the same things that Kyle does. He schemes people open. He makes plays. He generates offense by just moving people around. I mean, they're kind of like peas in a pod, essentially. And Andy Reid's been doing it for longer than Kyle's been alive, probably. Not quite exactly, but, you know, he's been in the game for a long time. He's got 20 more years of coaching experience on Kyle. And I think Kyle just needs to coach for a bit longer to really get it down. And I think he'll get there. I think he'll be there. But I didn't think that either of our guys coached or called a bad game. We just got out coached.
Yeah. That's not a bad way to sum up this game. But honestly, I think with that, unless James, you have any, I don't have any last thoughts to add to this. James, did you have any last thought you want to add to this? Or Eric, if you had a more formal last thought?
No.
Just pain. Just pain.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just disappointed. It's going to hurt for a long time because we were so close. And there were so many opportunities to just deliver that knockout punch, and we just couldn't do it. We just couldn't hit the haymaker. It was like uppercut after uppercut going at them, and they just kept dodging it, and dodging it, and we just couldn't connect. And let them hang around. And here we sit, Losers of the Super Bowl.
I'm just glad
James.
we don't have to answer the question like, what do we do with the podcast? Like if they would have won, what do we do with the podcast? Only around until day one, and so like
last week you clearly didn't listen because I said we're not canceling the show. I made that formal proclamation while you were in your leave of absence.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance. They wouldn't let me listen to it, but yeah, I mean that is, I was like, man, like what are we gonna do if they win the Super Bowl? Like, do we continue the show or do we make it like an Eagles podcast and then we wait for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl? Could that happen?
We just keep changing the podcast to whoever we want to win next.
Yeah, we can call ourselves Bird Nuts, the Bird Nuts, and so
eventually we become a Falcons podcast just because.
Yeah. We're like, the Falcons need our help now. We'll be the Falcons podcast.
Yeah.
You did just inspire one last thought for me. I just let it hurt for however long it needs to, but then just hang up your banner and appreciate the good that did come out of the season, because I refuse to believe this season was for naught. It was a hell of a run we went on. This will be the last time I probably like wear this. I think I'm going to replace this hat and put it there. But yeah, 30 teams in the NFC or 15 teams in the NFC wish that they were there instead of us. So I mean, no, don't ignore the pain. Of course, embrace it, work through it, and then just put our big boy pants back on and let's get ready for the draft and free agency. Nothing else we can do. Just it's what it is. It sucks, but we will get through it together, gentlemen. I think with that though, I think it's a good time. Going on an hour now. I think it's a good time to give a word to our wonderful sponsor that has been with us for the entirety of the 2023 season, Royal Retros. And what is Royal Retros? Is your go-to place to have football.
What happened to Dan? There he is.
They do have all sports on there, all the major sports. But for us 49er fans, check out the Candlestick collection. I believe it's still up there. And it's got the Bay Area in mind for this curation of jerseys. When you find something you like, use the promo code Shady Sports and get 10% off of your order. Again, it's promo code Shady Sports when you check out. It helps us out. It helps Shady Sports Network out. And just go check out royalretros.com and go get yourself an authentic jersey today. James, let the people know. We've teased it a little bit. I elaborated. We had to reschedule what we were going to do, but you fill in the people on this awesome little charity we've been doing.
So guys, as we've said this whole season, since the season began, we've been talking about owner accountability in the NFL. Basically, if you've read the news about, the Houston Texans minority owner being charged with very serious sexual crimes, Jed York, the COO of the 49ers, being named in a insider trading civil lawsuit for a company that helped students cheat during the pandemic. The reason why we bring this up is because if it was a player, it'd be in the news all the time, reported by the NFL, being part of mainstream media. It wouldn't even be a question. But because these are owners and because the NFL knew what these owners had done and had not reported on it, that sort of bothers us. And so the NFL has said that owner standards are supposed to be greater than player standards, but actually the way it's going right now, owner standards are less than player standards. And we like that to change. And to show you we put our money where our mouth is, we are selling t-shirts for charity. We will have that charity on very, very soon. But this is our statement that we were trying to make. Owner standards are less than player standards. # owner accountability. $22.99 gets you that in a t-shirt. Different colors, different sizes, different styles for that shirt. Next up, we have our Niner Nuts podcast logo art. You'll find this wherever you listen to us on a podcast like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or on our YouTube channel. You can see this profile. $22.99 gets you that in the t-shirt, or we have different styles, different sizes along with there. Next, we have our alternate Niner Nuts logo. I have this shirt, very high quality, $22.99 gets you that in a t-shirt or different colors, different styles as well. And finally, last but not least, how can you say no to our mascot, a peanut, eating peanuts while sitting on the couch, cheering on his San Francisco 49ers. $22.99 gets you that in a t-shirt. Donate to a charity today. All the proceeds go to a Kentucky Crisis Center. Once we have them on the show, we'll go over the name, and you can see that charity and learn more about them. They will be on the show soon. We had to cancel last week because I was feeling under the weather. So, but we will have them on pretty soon, and so you can donate to their great cause by buying one of these T-shirts by either clicking in the description, the link in the descriptions, or by just Googling Niner Nuts Apparel and going to the bonfire.com website to purchase those. But all the proceeds go to charity.
Yeah, we don't want any money for these shirts. Go ahead and get them while you can. I guess to wrap up the news with the little news blurb we always close out with, the only news that I got is, well, I mean, we didn't touch on the awards, so huge shout out to Christian for finally winning Offensive Player of the Year. But I don't know, anything else going on in the news? I got through a whole episode without my internet crashing finally. Shout out to... I don't think he wants me to name drop him. I did get the specific name and number of somebody that was very, very helpful. So I will withdraw my criticism of Spectrum at the moment. But yeah, I survived a whole hour episode without one single crash, except for that little thing I had to step away for. You guys got anything? You guys got anything you want to close, I guess, the season with?
All I wanted to say was I just wanted to give you, James, and you, Dan, both a big shout out for bringing me on and making me a part of the show. It's really been great to be part of this ride and part of this journey and get to do all this with you guys on a weekly basis, multiple shows a week, and just be part of this whole fandom and do the thing that we do here. It's a ton of fun. I look forward to it every week. We've got a fun text chat that we've got going on now, and we're shooting memes and whatnot back and forth during the day, and it's really just a lot of fun. And it's great to have met you guys and become fast friends, and just want to thank you guys over and over for welcoming me in and making me part of your family here on Niner Nuts. So thank you so much for that. I'm so fortunate.
Well, we're definitely glad to have you, Eric. I mean, pretty much it was a no-brainer, and so we're glad to have you on.
Very fast meeting.
yeah. So I mean, it's just been a pleasure, doing this with you guys. Now, Dan, now we're going on our third year with this podcast, which is crazy to think. Like we started it 2 years ago, and it's like, we're here. We're on a network where we have another co-host.
Shout out Sam.
Shout out Sam. I mean, now we have a sponsor. So it's definitely been great this whole year, going through it with you. I'm excited to see what happens this coming year, because things have just gotten better since we started it. So
yeah, Eric, you've been awesome. Yeah, how immediate our chemistry was. James and I, yeah, it was a very quick meeting. I said that in a joking manner, but it was. I've very much loved having you on. James, thank you for getting me out of my little hiatus that I was taking, stepping away from the mic, and this has been an amazing endeavor. And yeah, it's weird. I didn't call this a season finale in my head until just now, but I mean, yeah, it's what it is, and we're going on to year 3. Jesus Christ, it's wild. I'm so thrilled to be going at it with the two of you, though. We're just gotta, like I said, put our big boy pants on, and we're gonna tackle season 3. Sam didn't cancel us, so and I didn't cancel us. I made that proclamation loud and clear, though. I didn't care if we won or lost. We were coming back for season 3, and I guess I should tell everybody that. What, James?
Oh, we should shout out our regular viewers. Our regular viewers who watch us every single week on the wrap-up show. Like, you guys are great. The fact that you come in week after week after week, and just watch us or listen to us. I mean, I think we've expanded past our family and friends now, and I think we actually have some like, actual legitimate fans and who watch us on a regular basis, and we like to thank you. We enjoy doing this, and we enjoy doing it for you, and just honestly, we're hoping that one day that Dan gets to see the 49ers win the Super Bowl. That's what the whole point of this podcast is. And we're just glad
and now Eric too.
Well, Eric's seen Joe Montana, so
yeah, I have seen all of the Super Bowls.
Yes, he has seen all of the Super Bowls. So
I am that old.
Yeah, I would just I like to thank the fans that are watching us on a consistent basis too, who have
for sure
given Sam a reason to keep this podcast going.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Big shout out to everybody that watches us out there in Niner Nuts Land. We love you.
Yeah, just 100%. Just all gratitude. Next week, though, guys, I might as well let you all know we are coming back next week, but following next week, we will go to our off-season every other week schedule. We've been doing this since the beginning, I believe. We did do that year one, didn't we? But yeah, we are back next week, and then we'll be going on our alternate schedule from there. So yeah, we're
minus any big news for an emergency podcast, like in free agency or something like that.
Of course, barring any emergencies. So yeah, we'll be here next week, the week of the 19th, and then we're going to be off the week of the 26th, and we'll be back on the 4th. But obviously, we'll remind you next week about that too. But yeah, been a hell of a season, hell of a ride, guys. Yeah, let's just, I don't know, let's beat the off season.
Well, with that, guys, outro music, River Road, Justin Muth.
Catch you next week, guys. Thanks for joining us.
River Road, you got me running way back home. River Road, you got me running all night long. You got me singing some canal boat song. River Road, you got me running all night long. River Road, where have all the women gone? Have they kissed her hand and waved you bye-bye? Have they thought about crossing your double yellow lines? River Road, they love the way you whine and cry.